And today we're lucky to have Adrienne Furness on the call as our presenter. And as she's an expert in communications and marketing and advocacy. And really, that's the three kind of important things to think about for your community is that you're trying to create your own advocates. You're making sure that you get your own word, your message out there around the importance of broadband and your emerging strategy. So without further ado, I'm just going to go right to Adrienne and give her the time because she does a great presentation. Welcome, Adrienne.
Well, thank you, Bill. And I recognize some of you from our meeting in December. It's great to see you all and many more because you've brought your teams now into the mix. And Bill, I really appreciate it. So thanks, Bill, for the little bit of background. A lot of people say, why do I have the expertise to skate over the top of these issues? And I'll just give a 2-second background about myself. I actually spent most of my early career in the TV and film business. And my job was to market Sesame Street around the world. And then I went to work in the film business where I tried to convince the American public that they should watch European or subtitled films, kind of a tough slog, but something that now is doing, people are more and more used to and the Academy Awards are accepting. So people, of course, say then, well, how does Benton relate to all of this? And Benton's in the business of providing information and research and publications. And of course, therefore, our job is to convince people these materials are worth reading, passing along to their friends, and using them in their work. So that's, of course, what I'm here to talk about is how you're going to integrate and talk about your community vision for this broadband project. And as Bill says, when you get your vision statements done, you're going to essentially get to the point where you're comfortable enough to talk about this in what we would call an elevator pitch to your communities. Next slide, Reed. And thank you for doing this. So at the end of this, Bill, I'm assuming you're still working, you're still using this worksheet, but I flash it up here to say that after I'm done, you all will go into your breakout rooms and sort of put some of this together. I won't go over this right now because the rest of the presentation does address that. Next slide, Reed. Okay, so when you are thinking about this project, you should be asking yourself a series of questions. And all of these are in service to how you're going to position yourself and how you're going to talk about the team and your work to your community. And so part of what you're going to ask yourself is, when you're successful, what is your community going to look like when it is has better broadband? So envisioning that future, and we always like to say, let's not just say we're going to connect everybody to wires. Let's try to envision that you would have that connection would actually enable the community to be more economically successful, give people access to healthcare, education, or other things. So it's really the outcomes that you want to think about when you're talking about broadband. One of the other thing you have to do is figure out who are going to be your passionate spokespeople and your champions, because generally those people have the energy to communicate the vision and what you're doing, and you should stick them out in front of media, in community meetings, and make sure their enthusiasm is catching to the rest of your residents and business people. You always want to evaluate what's working in your favor, but you also want to ask, what are the challenges? Now, I would have said before the pandemic, one of the biggest challenges was a lot of people would say, well, I can read my email. what else do I need broadband for? But the pandemic, of course, really did convince people that broadband was relevant. Now we're trying to figure out how to get it to people, meaning the infrastructure, but then also how to promote people to sign up or subscribe, to get the proper devices, to be digitally literate so they can use it. So there may be other challenges in the community, a lack of political will to spend money, a segment of the population that for whatever reason is fearful about maybe digital safety or misinformation. There may be challenges that you identify. And I think that in order to tackle this problem, you really don't want to just stay focused on the big vision, because sometimes that can appear a little bit intimidating, but really try to figure out some smaller outcomes or wins that can build toward that vision, and we call those milestones. Next slide. For each of these milestones, it's important to think about how you're going to influence and communicate trying to achieve that milestone. And so ask yourself, who are the decision makers that can help you get there? For instance, I know there are a bunch of county board members on these teams, but you would say that's your local policymaker. They'd be charged with figuring out how those ARPA dollars might be spent. But you're going to find particular decision makers in the community or gatekeepers that can help you meet some of these milestones. There are other series of questions here. I think one of the most important, again, is go back to your influencer, your enthusiast. Decision makers listen to certain people. It could be local media, it could be a community leader, a librarian. There are a variety of different people in the community who have standing and generally are persuasive and people respect. And so try to get them involved in your project. Next slide. So a lot of people like to jump to this first. And I urge you to think through the previous milestones and strategies and influencers before you get to this, because these are just the methods that you might use to spread your message. And so, as I said, a lot of people are already, I'm sure their minds are turning and they're saying, oh, I can put a Facebook page up. I can put a flyer in my local newsletter. Yes, all of that is something that you'll do, but I wouldn't suggest jumping to this first until you get your vision statement and your messaging and your milestones and your people identified. Next slide. So you need a need or opportunity. I think you all have told us your broadband stories. I always say nothing like lousy broadband to bring a community together. So you're thinking about what it is you're doing and how you're going to do it. And that should all feed into this vision. I'm sure Bill and the team have drilled into you that every word is important. And that also it's important to realize that the vision could change over time. The more you learn, it could be iterative. You could be tweaking it as you go along in this process. And again, important thing is don't make it so long and complicated that when you try to get people on board and you present your vision, you ask them to think, how am I going to put that into my own words? Get them comfortable with talking about what it is you're trying to accomplish. Next slide. So a lot of people during the December session heard me talk about a report that Benton did. I will not of time on this group of slides because you will get this after the fact, and I want to jump to some very specific examples from our prior communities. But again, when we at Benton put out a major publication, which we did here for United Soybean Board, we do the same process that you all will undertake in your communities. So we come up with a vision statement, and the purpose, of course, being that farmers know what they need for sustainability, data-driven agriculture that can keep pace with the world's rising food demand was really the purpose of looking at policy options for bringing better broadband to the farm office, the field, and the community. And so next slide, we had this vision. We put together a team, as you all are putting together a team. We thought about who our primary audience was, which is something really important for you all. You're doing this work for a reason. You may say, my primary audience is the state of Illinois Connect Illinois program, because I'm going to apply for a grant. My primary audience is USDA because I'm going to go for Reconnect. My primary audience is not just the funder, but it is my county board who's reluctant to look at local financing options or a commitment. My primary audience could be the people who live in my community, many of whom are just happy with the lousy broadband they have. So there are a variety of different people that you can identify. We talked about our climate here, which was at the time we did this report, was really at the beginning of the pandemic, really talked here about, again, much of the survey data that you're going to find is going to define this climate question. How many people don't have robust broadband? How many people don't find it affordable? There's only one provider, so there's no competition and prices are high. There's going to be things that you identify in your survey that can be used to describe the climate. Next slide. Our messaging is below. I'm not going to go over it, but really we were trying to convince policymakers. Much of this is aligned with what's in Christopher Ali's book, but really we were trying to figure out what did the feds need to do, including a standard for higher speeds, and we pushed symmetrical higher speeds, so 100 over 100, just to make sure that people had the robust upload as well as the robust download speed. Again, I won't read through this, but we'll go to the next slide. We identified our milestones here. Again, I don't want to go through that, but here we have 7. You could have 3, you could have 10. There's no magic number here, but it was essentially obligations that we wanted to make to our funder, but also to the public that was interested in helping us move along these policy options to try to make it easier for people in rural communities to get better broadband. Next slide. And then finally, our tactics. So again, press releases, meetings, engaging a wonderful comms firm to handle outreach in rural communities. We worked with United Soybean Board to reach ag media. We found a wonderful spokeswoman, a soy farmer, who eventually, after her stint with us, became the chair of the United Soybean Board. But the one thing that was so wonderful was that we got called by Vice President Kamala Harris' office to ask whether I knew of any farmers that might speak on a national webinar that she was holding. And I volunteered Megan Kaiser, who is this soy farmer out of Missouri, and it created a wonderful interview that then we chopped up and re-edited and used it as a really great tool for Megan to be the spokesperson. And that's important, again, going back to who is going to get your message across. And this will come up later. Next. So now I'm going to turn my attention to talking about some of the things that your neighbors in neighboring counties did to try to make sure that the work that you all are undertaking over 16 weeks is well communicated to your community. So Mercer County gave their effort a name, and it was called the Mercer County Internet Initiative. You see a flyer up in the upper left of this threesome. They were, in this particular case, they came up with a logo. They were publicizing a meeting that they held to sort of communicate their plan at the time. Flanagan, which was a small village of 1,000 people, their effort was on the bottom banner. They created a website. They named their effort Connect Flanagan. Many of our communities have named their efforts Connect, whatever the name of the county or town is. And again, used this website to communicate a lot of things, including take the survey or come to a community meeting. And so that is a very useful tool. I happen to love what the city of Harvey did in the upper right. And I'm sorry, do I have that right? No, excuse me. The city of Harvey is not in here. I apologize. Both the top pictures are from Mercer. But the city of Harvey is trying to brand themselves as a community just south of Chicago that is a hub for truck traffic. It's a big intersection of train lines and highways. And so they talked about their overall economic development plan as being trucks, trains, and technology. And of course, they wanted to go for the alliterative 3 T's, but the technology in this case was broadband and higher internet speeds. Next slide. This was a recent example from Schuyler County that just finished the first round of broadband breakthrough. And so they did a wonderful series of communication pieces. I particularly like, if you all didn't talk about this before, the business card on the right-hand side with the QR code that would get people to take the survey online. Now, many of you know that if you're not connected to the internet, then of course you're going to rely on taking this as a paper survey. But I think this was a very clever way and an easy way to give people. Sometimes you give somebody a piece of paper, they don't fold it up and put it in their pocket. They look at it briefly and lay it down someplace where you're not watching. But I think a business card can be stuffed into a pocket. They obviously, in the middle piece, had their outline, and Schuyler County Economic Development was the team leader, and so it was really the point of contact. And then, of course, I love the very obvious question: how's your internet? In Schuyler, it wasn't very good. Okay, next. Here's Whiteside County, again, another website with their vision statement on the right. Again, came up with their own logo, a tagline for that. So they took that vision statement and shortened it up. Robust, affordable internet for everyone in Whiteside County. Pretty brief, but it says it all. Here they actually introduced the survey not only in English, but also in Spanish, which I'm sure you've talked about. But they also talk here about the number of meetings that they had, places where people could pick up the paper survey. So they publicized this right on the front of the website. Next. So I'm going to talk specifically about what some of our communities did. And this is going to lead up to talking about some of the people who successfully completed the program. So our suggestion is that you designate someone on your committee to be the point of contact or to oversee the kind of communication that we're suggesting that you do as you move along in this process. And once you get your vision statement done, I think it's important to try to put out some kind of public communication, whether it's a press release about your committee initiative and mission, or whether it is a basic website or even a section of the website on your county or economic development site, depending on who's leading your team. Trying to give updates, periodic updates. You don't want to sort of say, well, here we are, we're going to do the effort, and 16 weeks later, you're going to give them the plan, and people may say, well, wait a minute, when was I allowed at any point to get my 2 cents into this thing? And so giving these periodic updates allows people to weigh in, to come to the table at various opportunities and start to feel part of the process. We suggest, and I know local media is, the trends are not good. Much of it is disappearing, but if you have a local paper or radio or television station, and you would like to set up a featured interview or news story, you could even get, as I will show later, one of our communities ended up doing 4 related segments on a local TV station that I just think are brilliant, and I would suggest, because I do provide links, that you try to watch those at some point. And then look at your distribution. Does your superintendent send messages home in kids' backpacks? Is there a school newsletter? Does your local Illinois Extension office communicate regularly? This is the kind of place where you could publish your press release, put it on community boards in your local grocery. There are a lot of ways to get the news around. Next. This is a program that's trying to evolve your county agriculture industry. And we found that reaching out to, again, people who have interaction with your farming community, like equipment dealers, county farm bureau, local extension office, the people who run the grain elevator in town, are good places for you to make sure that they understand what you're doing. Ask yourself, who are the pillars of the ag community? Try to spread them around the whole area of your county. You don't want them all concentrated in your county seat, particularly if people aren't getting there very often. And we would suggest that you meet and share who you are, what you're doing, and how they can help. So that's a big question. They can join your committee, they can participate in a community event, they can share information, and they can also reach out to farmers they work with and ask them to get involved. You can also leverage other existing relationships that everybody on your team has, whether you're a mom with school kids and you know the leadership at your schools, if you're a county board official and you have access to your electeds and community leaders, people who are suffering from bad internet, business can be very vocal. There are some instances in our first cohort of a local restaurant talking about, a local apple orchard not being able to take credit cards, and the fear that as we go to a cashless society, their business was going to drop. Sometimes those people can be very vocal proponents for your efforts. And then, of course, they're faith leaders. A lot of our communities have worked with their local churches to do some outreach. And if there are any civic clubs like the Elks or Moose, those are also great ways to reach into the community. Next slide. So this is the TV series that I've when you get this from Nancy, you'll see the links allow you to watch what is sort of a 1.5 to 2.5 minute piece. And Hancock did 4 of these over their effort. And I want to talk about these in depth, because if you don't have a local TV, you can try to do this via radio or even with your local paper. or newsletter. But what I love about what they did was that they used these stories as a way to show who was involved, but also to ask for help and then to communicate the plan. So this wonderful young reporter named Dylan Smith, the first week interviews Ryan Weeks. He actually interviews him twice in this series. He is the Martin Tractor sales professional, a John Deere dealer. He talks a lot about how data is really important to run his customers' businesses. And then he also interviews the Hancock County team leader, Samantha Harnick, who ran the Community Economic Development Group. And here they talk about the county survey and speed test, and they're asking for additional members sign up to the broadband planning team. So essentially they're saying we have a team, it's small, we'd like more members. And by the way, please be on the lookout for the county survey and speed test. In the second piece, they further publicize the community survey, and actually WGEM put the survey link right onto the TV station website. And in this piece, they interview Brian Stevens, who is a farmer and the Hancock County Farm Bureau president, who again talks about how important broadband is for he and his family, and how even a slight increase in speeds is going to make his life easier. In the third piece, again, more interviews with farmers, with Ryan Weeks, but most importantly here, this is the county that, unbeknownst to us, when we first started the program, their local telephone company, the McDonough Telephone Communications, had applied for a USDA Reconnect grant and received it. So they interview and talk about this I think it was $22 million bill. It was either 18 or 22 million, a large amount of money. And it would not solely be used for Hancock County, but some of it will be used to cover a part of Hancock County. So they sort of said, hey, it's possible to get money from the feds and help meet your goals. And then the last piece really discusses the end of the program, the learnings that the team wants to communicate to its county residents, and again features the team leader. So very, very, from our perspective, just exactly what we want to see. So, I'm saying this is an aspirational goal. Some of you may not be able to accomplish this because you don't have that local TV station or a young reporter who's interested in this, but I point this out because this was a kind of hit it out of the park moment. Next. And then I will also say this. Look, every team did an amazing job. Every team put together great presentations at the end. What I liked about Hancock was they actually incorporated this into a website that was meant for the public. It was done by one of the team leaders, Roger Pavey, at the Western Illinois Regional Council. Unfortunately, Roger is no longer at the Western Illinois Regional Council. If any of you would have belonged to that organization, I would have said, get Roger Pavey to do a website for you because this is quite incredible. But again, wonderful sort of communications piece. And I urge you all to get into this because you can imagine that just like when you started this program and we started to throw around all the acronyms and terminology, you can imagine when you get out to talk to the public, it's the same kind of thing. So that goes through broadband basics. It gives some data from the sort of the state, the maps, the state of what's going on in Hancock County currently. Spends a lot of time talking about survey results. And so this is an opportunity to say, hey, people in our community were saying X, Y, and Z about their broadband experience. Then they pulled together the data. I gather you all have just gotten the John Kostelnick ISU corn and soy production modeling. So they did some wonderful further economic modeling to look at the impact of putting better broadband into Hancock, not only the direct benefit, meaning to corn and soy production, but also the indirect or induced economic benefit, adding up to about $12 million a year for this county of 17,000 people. And then what I love again is an ask for people to remain involved. So this is just, I thought, was a great communications tool, very clever. There's some fun stuff like if you had faster broadband, how fast could you download a game that your teenager may be playing? And so it goes through some fun things to talk about speed. It's just a very, very fun and good communications tool. And again, a very fast and brief on the front page tagline, vision of fast, reliable internet for all of Hancock County. Very easy to remember, a great elevator pitch. And Reed, I think that's the last slide. Yes. I think it is.
That's it.
Okay. So at this point, I sort of sailed through that, Bill, but I would love to entertain any questions if people have it. And I know that, I don't know if you told people that the guest that Nancy sent out the email for, that Bailey Edinburgh from Champaign County is going to come later in the program. But so that may leave some time for people just to ask about other communities or drill down on anything I've said.
Sure. I guess it'd be great to hear from folks about kind of, I know that is the first big outreach really is around the survey, and wonder if people could describe, how what you're doing fits into the model that Adrienne has proposed, any new ideas and so on. Sarah, is this a model that you've been following, or how does this impact how you think about communicating with your community?
So those are things that we've talked about already. We have our in-person meeting scheduled for the 15th. Our media is already involved. We've pushed the survey out. We've already done that. We don't have access to the television piece, but the radio, our farm bureau, the schools. So, it's the things that we started doing session before last. So 2 weeks ago, as we were talking about how to finish up the survey and then how to get it out there. But we've been putting something in the paper since the first week of December, when the county asked me to take this charge on. So
Good. Is there a buzz around town about broadband yet, or is that still building?
yeah, well, there's certainly a buzz around town, but my phone rings constantly with people wanting to be involved, and
that's great.
All of that. And so, to tell you the truth, it's more of an effort than I anticipated, because continuing to have to get people grouped around, and we don't have economic development professionals in our community. So these are all people who are working full-time in other areas and doing this as a volunteer or in addition to. And so that's been tough. The juggling of schedules and getting people to be available for meetings and not having to schedule additional times in the evening. And it's, that's what I'm up against at this point. The devotion of time that this project requires is far more than what people who have other full-time obligations should be taking on. And so that's, it's been an effort there for sure to balance that.
Yeah, and I'll say that in the next month or so, that will really calm down a little bit. There's a lot going on right now for sure. And so there is a big ramp up But know that that isn't necessarily going to be the pace throughout the 16 weeks. So give you hopefully a little comfort there.
Yeah, and I would,
How about Clinton County?
Yes, we are rolling here in Clinton County. We a group of us attended the Clinton County Farm Bureau annual meeting the other night. We were expecting, good attendance around 300. I would say they had overflow in additional rooms. I would say we had close to, if not right at 500 people. And our county board chairman gave us a shout out. We had a little display on hand there. Plus, I had county board members that were working the room prior to the dinner and handed out our flyers. We have business cards ordered. It's on the county website. It's on Farm Bureau's website. We've been in the paper. We're hit the ground running. There's no doubt about it.
Good, great, good work there. And how about Tammy from Macon County?
Hi, Bill.
Hi.
We maybe are a little behind. We kept changing our survey stuff to Nancy, so we haven't got our survey draft back yet. But we have a plan to roll all that out. We have a good team. Everybody has a website they can put it on. The Farm Bureaus here, the EDC, the chamber, along with our township. So yeah, so the board members that go to the village meetings and stuff have already brought it up, and I've been talking about it for a couple of months, hey, this is coming up, and so people know we're planning on inviting the press when you guys are here on the 14th and getting it in the paper then. We're kind of waiting to set some dates to do all that when we know our survey is gonna really go out.
That sounds good. And you're in fine shape. Don't have too many concerns. We're still early, plenty of time on the survey. So thanks for that. Jennifer from Perry.
Good morning.
Hi.
So we have our vision statement, we have our survey. We are, we're going in the Farm Bureau. We are going, our meeting tonight, we will be doing our newspaper. We're talking about business cards, dropping them off at gas stations, website, just rolling on, but, I do want to tell you guys that we have 11 o'clock broadband meeting in Carbondale today. So we are jumping off here as a group and heading to Carbondale at 9:30 sharp. So,
Okay. Not a problem. And
okay.
We're almost done here right now. So we'll get you in your rooms here pretty soon.
so Bill, that means that Jennifer and her team are going to a meeting that Robbie is setting up, right,
Yeah.
Robbie?
Yes, correct. Yes, I will also be jumping off to attend that.
Okay, thanks.
And Vicky asked if there's a way to tell how many surveys have been completed. And Nancy Esray does that, gives you an update every couple weeks or so about how many surveys have been completed, and is also able to kind of generally map those of where those are coming in from. And because she does not quite want you to jump into see, oh, that's Bob's house. She only lets you have those maps for a little bit, but yeah, we give you that information on about every 2-week basis. Good. Let's see. Kathy Brown, how's it going there in Logan County?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, good. Sorry. So we have not totally launched our marketing effort yet, but we're poised to do that outreach. We have a database of almost 200 anchor institution contacts throughout Logan County that will really be pushing this electronically, the survey. Just this morning, we sent to the printer postcards. We'll be doing around 2,000 postcards that will serve as that marketing piece. Farm Bureau has agreed to direct mail those to their membership. And then Blair and Brent are working on ads that will appear in the local paper. So we too have talked about doing media advisory and inviting the media to your visit to Logan County, which is the 16th. So, you know, a lot of strategizing, I guess, but we're just really poised to pounce on it, I would say.
Great, great. That's good. Where did you get the big mailing list, email list?
Lots of emails asking for support. So there's a big network of health and social service organizations in the county. Brent found a church contact that put us in contact with the Ministerial Alliance. So we have that in our database. The Regional Office of Ed gave us all of our school contacts. So it's just a series of, you know, talking to someone who knew how to, you know, populate that database, I guess.
Great. That's a really strong strategy. So, and it sounds like those are all people who are connectors as well. So that's great. And then Crawford County.
This week we are working on reaching out to the various people and organizations in the community that we have identified as potential partners. And we're collaborating with the Crawford County Board to get a Facebook page up and running. So we're still not on the back end, but still working on getting on the ball, on the roll. I don't know how to say it.
Good. Thank you.
No, I was going to say, you know, I do think this is so fascinating, and thank you all for giving me an update. You know, you all are doing the exact right thing wherever you are in the process, and that is gathering contacts. So whether the thing that you just talked about, which is just trying to find community gatekeepers or other people, or whether you're doing the kind of email list that Kathy is talking about. I hear about some media outreach. So I think you all are thinking through the tactics, the postcards, etc. I do just want to urge you all, when you get in and do that vision statement, that you do think through those sort of interim steps and what you might be able to do just to push those along. So an interim step for sure is take the survey and speed test, right? So, I mean, I think that is trying to get that community feedback, and it sounds like you all are thinking about that. And as Nancy gives you those maps, what it'll show you is, oh, I'm getting a lot of surveys back from the northeast part of my county, but I have none back from the southwest. And then it helps you say, well, who's down there that can help me push stuff? Because we're looking for some good dispersion, right? And those communication strategies can help you get that full county coverage. So that's just one instance where a strategy and a milestone, which is I need to have responses from all over my county, then what am I going to do to get that? That is the tactic that you'll use. So I use that as an example just to say, this is not rocket science or brain surgery. You all absolutely in your heads know the steps, but it is helpful, I think, to just map this out and make sure everybody's on the same page.
Good, good. And I want to go back to Sarah. I really appreciate the effort that each and every one is putting into this effort. And even if people are getting paid as a job, it's still one more big task to do. And but this is really volunteer driven in many in most cases, there's folks that are participating in this where it's one more thing for them to put on their list. And it all goes back to that, if you want something done, ask a busy person. And I expect that you have many hats that you wear in your communities. And I just really want to express my appreciation for the work that your folks are doing in your community. So thank you very much. Rita's put the worksheet, communicating your broadband vision worksheet, in the chat. And then there's also several other documents there. We've seen, and this usually happens a little farther down the path, but local organizations doing support resolutions of the plan. And so that as you think you have a draft plan in place and you get out there and you show it to the chamber or the school boards or whoever, asking them to pass a resolution of support for that plan just continues to build the consensus that this is a widespread need in your community, and that the folks that are doing the work are all working together on it. So that's a great thing to do, a press release. And then as we think about a community meeting on the tour, if you want to host a community meeting with lots of folks, there's a sample agenda there that you can take any and or all of it. Sometimes the last thing I'd say on that is that some folks like to have folks at the front of the room always presenting to the community members. This is also an opportunity to have a little bit of that, but then also when you invite people into a meeting, to allow them to speak and talk about their broadband situation and their ideas and their experience. So I always like kind of a hybrid approach on that, where there's at least some opportunity for people to really participate as opposed to be a passive observer. And when you let them speak, they're more likely to come over to your cause and want to be an active participant that will help drive this effort long term. And Reed, of course, will be in constant contact on the plan for the tour and the logistics. And just know again that this is your time in your community, and we're willing to step in and support that however you want it to. Again, from just a meeting with your team to some kind of big community meeting to the tour out to any kind of tech firms that you have or farms that are using the technology. So thanks again for your work on that. So with that, I think we can open up the breakout rooms unless there are any other questions or comments.
Thank you, Bill, for giving me the opportunity. And again, if anybody would like to contact me, I will put my email in the chat. This is the first time I will not be going to the tour, so I'm really jealous about Reed. It'll be his first time doing it, and I'm stepping aside to let my younger colleague do it. But it is so much fun for us to go around and see everybody and meet people in person and get acquainted with your community, because it just helps us as we go into the community planning process to just have a better handle on the challenges and opportunities you all face. So thank you again for having me today, Bill. And again, my email is there if people want to come back and ask questions.
Thanks, Adrienne. And I kind of have to apologize to Adrienne that I had kind of forgotten that you weren't haven't been participating on a weekly basis. So I was a little short on your introduction. So I apologize for that.
Oh, no, my goodness. I'm such a big mouth that if given the chance to talk, I can do it. But I appreciate having met people, the leaders at least, in December. It was so great to reconnect with Cheryl and her team, and Kathy, who of course I've met in other instances, but there were some new faces, and like Jennifer and I'm sorry, Vicky from Cumberland. And I'm sure there are others that I'm missing, but anyway, great to see you all on the call, having 40 to 42 people here on a weekly basis. As Bill says, we appreciate your time and energy. And we know it's a lot of work. So again, good luck, and I'll check back in. You know, I'm obviously Reed is filling me in on what's happening every week. So thank you again. Okay, Bill, take care, everybody.
Thank you. Nancy can open up the rooms.
And those are open, and if you have issues joining, just unmute yourself or use the chat to let me know which one you need to be placed in if you need help getting placed into those. Otherwise, you would just select the breakout rooms icon down at the bottom of your screen. Kind of looks like a window or 4 blocks together. And if you scroll down on that window, you might see your county. And but you're gonna have to scroll down. It's kind of tricky sometimes. And of course, if you're having any issues, just let me know and I can place you in there myself. I see a lot of folks have joined, so.
A little lonely in Perry County room right now.
Nancy, this is
Stop
Kathy.
that, recording
Can
as
you
well.
put me in? Can you put me in a room? This
Sure.
is Kathy. It's not showing up on my phone.